Sunlight spilled across the cracked sidewalk like it was trying to soften something that had already happened. The morning buses hissed at the curb, doors folding open with tired breaths. Windscreens glinted. Somewhere down the block, a shopkeeper lifted a metal shutter with a groan of steel. The day was wide awake, bright, ordinary. Unaware of the quiet storm about to pass through it, 17-year-old Eli Carter stood at the school bus stop. One foot pressed into the edge of concrete, the other rocking nervously against the ground. His shoes were the same ones he'd worn since ninth grade, creased, scuffed, the soles stitched back together by his mother twice already. Sunlight caught the torn seam near his toe like it was pointing at it on purpose. He glanced down and nudged the tear inward with his other shoe. The city hummed around him. Distant sirens. A delivery truck rattling past. Coins clattered in a busker's coffee cup as someone dropped spare change without stopping. Life moved forward. Eli stayed still. Across the street, a cafe door swung open, and the hiss of an espresso machine drifted out into the morning. Laughter followed, easy, careless. A group of students clustered on the opposite curb, clean trainers, pressed shirts. Backpacks slung over one shoulder like fashion accessories. At the center of them stood Ryan Bellamy. Wide grin, fresh sneakers. Confidence that didn't come from effort. Ryan's eyes dropped, locked on Eli's shoes. He smirked. "Mate," Ryan called, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You planning on donating those to a museum? Or they just grow like that?" The laughter hit before Eli could react. Quick, sharp. The kind that leaves a ringing afterward. Eli's fingers tightened around the fraying strap of his backpack. Sunlight warmed his knuckles. He didn't lift his head. Another voice chimed in. "Nah, leave him. Those things survived like 3 recess wars." More laughter. A bus brake hissed loudly beside him, doors opening. People shuffled aboard. The moment could have ended there, but Ryan stepped closer. "What's the story then?" Ryan pressed. "Can't afford new ones. Or you just into retro poverty chic?" The street went quiet in that strange daylight way where even the wind seems to pause. Eli swallowed. He could feel the sun on his face, feel the heat building behind his eyes. He didn't speak. Ryan shrugged loudly. "Guess broken shoes match broken chances." That one landed. Silence followed it. Thick, uncomfortable. Even Ryan's friends shifted a little. Eli stepped onto the bus without a word. The doors folded shut with a hollow clap. Inside, he sat alone. The city slid past the window in flashes of brick and light. He watched his reflection ripple across the glass. His face, his shoes, the small tear he pretended not to see. The bus's gentle rocking couldn't loosen the knot in his chest. By midday, the school halls were filled with echoing footsteps and locker doors snapping shut. Sunlight poured through the tall windows at the end of the corridor, scattering dust motes in gold streaks. Eli moved quietly between classes. Books hugged to his chest. In the lunch hall, the chatter bounced off tiled walls. Trays clattered. Someone dropped coins, laughing as they chased them under a table. Eli stood in line with exactly enough money for a sandwich and juice. When his turn came, the cashier slid his tray forward with a tired smile. Behind him, Ryan's voice floated again. "Careful stepping in those, yeah? Don't want crumbs forming archaeological layers." A few people laughed. Others looked away. Eli picked up his tray and walked to his usual corner table. Alone, he ate slowly. The sunlight from the courtyard windows painted bright rectangles across the floor. Outside, students laughed on the grass. A football bounced between them. Life unfolded like he wasn't part of it. Across the room, Ryan leaned across his table. "Boy, graduation's in 6 weeks. They doing awards for most likely to trip over their own life?" Laughter again. Something shifted in Eli then. Tiny, almost invisible, he stood. The scrape of his chair was louder than he expected. The room dipped into that sudden quiet that follows a harsh statement. Ryan raised his eyebrows expectantly. Eli's voice came out soft. "You ever get tired of that?" "Tired of what?" Ryan grinned, looking down. The silence stretched. Ryan's smile stiffened. "Careful, man. You'll tear those talking like that." More laughter tried to return, thinner this time. Eli sat back down, but the damage was done. That afternoon, rain drifted through the air like a whisper, just enough to darken the pavement, not enough to count as weather. The school released its students into the soft drizzle. The bus stopped. Ryan walked past Eli and kicked lightly at his heel as he passed. "Watch your step." "Hero." Eli's foot slipped that he caught himself before he fell, but not before his broken sole. Peeled back visibly in front of everyone. A few students snickered. Eli stared down. Water pooled in the seam of his shoe. The drizzle tapped gently against the pavement like quiet applause. That night at home, Eli stitched the seam again himself with his mother's old needle. She worked late shifts at the hospital. He didn't want to bother her. The thread kept snapping. He tried again and again, gradually. The countdown posters for graduation went up in the halls. 6 weeks, then 5, then 4. The school buzzed with plans, outfits, parties, university choices. Eli kept his head down. At home, his mother finally noticed the state of his shoes as he set them by the door. Eli, she said carefully, "They're fine." He replied too fast. She didn't push. 3 weeks before graduation, the humiliation reached its peak. The class gathered in the bright main hall for a fundraiser presentation. Sunlight exploding through the glass ceiling overhead. A projection screen displayed figures, graduation fees, gown hires, final events. The vice principal spoke warmly about community, about ensuring every student walks that stage with pride. Ryan leaned over loudly and whispered, "Just enough to carry. Guess not everyone's walking." Laughter rippled. The vice principal paused mid-sentence, the quiet after. That one felt heavier than all the rest. Eli's face burned under the flood of daylight. He stood and walked out. The hallway outside was empty, bright, echoing with his footsteps. Each step sounded louder than the last. His breath shook. At the end of the corridor, sunlight blazed through the exit doors. He pushed them open and stepped into it. Out into the open street, cars passed. People moved. Life continued. And for the first time, Eli made a decision. He wasn't walking that graduation stage. The resignation didn't come all at once. It happened in fragments. Eli stopped checking the countdown posters. He ignored the chatter about outfits, about after parties, about dreams of next year. When the school sent home reminders about graduation fees, his mother folded the letters silently and tucked them into a drawer. Sunlight filled their small kitchen every morning. She'd pack his lunch with quiet carefulness. Neither of them spoke about the drawer. At school, rumors began. "He's not graduating. He got kicked out, didn't he? He can't even pay the fee." Ryan didn't need to say anything anymore. The story told itself for him. One afternoon, at the sun-bleached bus stop near the community center, the confrontation came. Ryan stood with 2 friends, trainers bright as advertisements. Eli waited 10 feet away, alone, staring at the pavement. Ryan broke off from the group and strolled over. "So, you just quitting now?" Ryan asked casually. Eli didn't look up. Ryan squinted against the sunlight. "You really gonna be that guy? For years for nothing?" Eli exhaled slowly. "Move." Ryan stepped closer instead. "Nah, I'm curious. What's the plan, mate?" "Straight into minimum wage and broken shoes for life." The bus stop fell quiet. The midday sun made every silence ring. Eli's fingers trembled at his sides. "I said move." Ryan laughed. "Or what?" Eli looked up, and for a moment, in that harsh, open daylight, Ryan saw something he hadn't expected. Anger, yes, but also something heavier. "Resolve, or I'll move myself forward," Eli said quietly. "With or without you." Ryan scoffed. "Oh, deep." The bus brakes hissed as it pulled in. Doors opened. People surged forward. Ryan stepped back instinctively as Eli boarded without another word. And for the first time, Ryan felt the faint sting of being left behind. That evening, Eli's mother finally opened the drawer. She counted the notes inside. It wasn't enough. She leaned against the kitchen counter as the daylight faded through the curtains. Her shoulders slumped in a way Eli had never seen before. "I'll talk to the school," she murmured. Eli shook his head. "No." She looked up. He met her eyes. "I'm done." The room fell into that quiet that follows a harsh decision. 2 days later, the school held a rehearsal briefing. Ryan practiced his speech for student awards, sunlight gleaming off the laminated program in his hands. His parents sat in the front row, proud, immaculate. Eli wasn't there. The empty space beside his assigned seat stuck out more than any presence could have. The real pivot came on a Saturday. The community center hosted a volunteer day for underprivileged families, tables under white tents, kids running between chalk drawings on the pavement. Sun flared through the trees. Dust floated lazily through the air. Eli had signed up to help stack boxes, wanting something, anything. To keep his hands busy, he lifted crates of donated shoes, stacked them neatly. Brand names gleamed in the light. Untouched soles. Across the courtyard, Ryan arrived with his mother, who insisted on participating for appearances. Ryan scanned the place lazily, then froze when he spotted Eli across the boxes. He hadn't expected to see him there. Their eyes met. Ryan hesitated. Something shifted. His mother nudged him. "Go on." Ryan walked over awkwardly. "Didn't think you'd be into charity work," Ryan said. Eli kept stacking. "Didn't think you'd notice." Ryan shifted his weight. "Look about school." Eli paused slowly. Ryan swallowed. The sunlight made his discomfort painfully visible. "Maybe I went too far sometimes." Eli stared at him. Ryan tried again. "It's just jokes, man. Everyone laughs," Eli said. "That's the problem." The words landed heavier than shouting ever could. Ryan had no comeback. They worked in silence after that point, two boys side by side under wide daylight, lifting shoes neither of them needed. For the first time, Ryan looked down at a pair with torn seams. They looked very familiar. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He lay staring at the ceiling glow from passing cars. Eli's face replayed in his mind. Not sad, not weak. Done. Graduation week arrived in a flood of sunlight. The air felt lighter, almost festive. On the morning of the ceremony, students gathered in the bright hall, gowns folded over chairs. Parents filled the upper seats. Ryan adjusted his suit jacket. Scanning the room, Eli's seat was empty. Again, a strange tightness formed in Ryan's chest. Backstage, the vice principal flipped through the list. "Before we begin," she said into the mic, "we have an update from the administration regarding student support contributions." Ryan barely listened. "We are proud to announce," she continued, "that this year, every single graduation fee has been cleared. Every gown paid in full." Murmurs rippled through the hall. Every single one. Ryan felt a strange chill despite the warm lights. The vice principal added, "including several anonymous sponsorships." Ryan's eyes drifted instinctively to the empty seat again. Eli sat alone on a park bench across town. Sunlight warming the wood beneath his palms. Families passed. A jogger tied his shoe. Leaves rustled softly. The world felt peaceful in a way that almost hurt. He checked his phone. 6 missed calls from his mother. 1 new message. "Where are you? You need to see this." Eli hesitated, then stood. The graduation hall. Applause thundered as students marched across the stage. Names were called. Ryan's came up. He walked, smiled, accepted his diploma, but his eyes searched the crowd, not for his parents, for one empty seat. Finally, near the end, the vice principal paused again. "We have one more presentation," she said gently. "One not listed in the program." The hall stilled. "We would like to recognize." An act of quiet generosity that shaped this entire class. A screen behind her flickered. Photos appeared. Not awards, not trophies, but receipts, hospital, shift logs, envelope deposits, anonymous, tuition payments. Gasps rippled through the audience. The vice principal continued. "For the last 3 years, one student secretly worked evening shifts, donated every spare pound, and paid graduation fees for classmates who would never know." Ryan's heart began to pound. The screen changed. A blurry security photo from the hospital cafeteria. A boy wiping tables, worn shoes, torn seam. Ryan's breath caught. "Eli Carter," the vice principal said softly. "Would you please come forward?" The hall exploded into whispers. Ryan turned toward the aisle. Eli stood frozen at the back doorway, sunlight blazing behind him, his mother's hands covered, her mouth in the front row. Eli walked forward. Slowly, each step echoed. Ryan watched, unable to move. Eli climbed the steps. The vice principal handed him a folded gown, paid in full. "For someone who never intended to walk this stage," she said quietly. "You carried everyone else across it." The hall rose to its feet. Applause thundered, not loud and cruel like before, but wide and shaking with something better. Respect. Ryan stood too. Applause burning his palms. Eli met his eyes. Ryan lowered his head. Not in shame. In thanks. After the ceremony, the sunlight outside felt unreal. Parents hugged. Friends posed. Laughter spilled across the courtyard. Ryan approached Eli slowly. "I'm sorry," he said. "No jokes. No audience." Eli studied him. Ryan added quietly, "I didn't see you." "Not really." Eli nodded once. "Most people don't." He turned to leave. Ryan called after him, "Hey, your shoes." Eli looked down. Ryan pulled off his own new, spotless, and held them out. For a moment, both boys stood under the sun, unsure. Eli smiled faintly. "They got me here," he said gently. Ryan laughed weakly through tears, and for once, it wasn't at anyone's expense. Moral: true wealth isn't measured in what we wear, but in what we quietly give.